What's better than watching a tutorial to mix your robot? Not having to manually mix it at all. At the beginning of the summer, I made a tutorial explaining how to set up mixes in EdgeTX. The goal was to make it as easy as possible for a complete beginner to set up their robot. For a little background, EdgeTX allows users to run programs called Lua scripts on their radios. These scripts can do a number of things, but one of the default ones installed with EdgeTX helps users to set up mixes for model airplanes and helicopters. And if there's a script for that, then why can't there be one for combat robots? So, I made one. I'm calling it the Quick Mixer, and if I figured out how GitHub works correctly, it's available now as a free download. This Lua script will basically set up the robot drive mix and weapons for you, and then give you a menu to edit settings in. It doesn't quite do everything my previous tutorial covers though, so I still recommend you watch that video if you want to learn more about how EdgeTX really works, and add a few more features to your robot. I'll start by showing just how easy it is to set up a robot with the Quick Mixer while exploring most of the features. Then, I'll show you how to download it and install it on your radio. Let's get started by setting up a new model mix with this tool. To make it as easy as possible to read the screen and follow along with what I'm doing, I've animated a digital copy of my radio for this segment. In the real world, this script should work on any EdgeTX radio with a black and white 128x64 LCD screen. Everything you see on the screen should be the same as what you see on your radio, and for any inputs, I'll highlight them and put text up on the screen to make it clear what's happening. Let's get started by turning our radio on. This brings you to the default page for the radio. Let's start with making a new model. We'll do this by pressing the Model button, which takes us to the list of models. We'll scroll down to an empty slot, and then hit Enter and make a new model. If you hit the Page button, you'll move to the first page, where you'll still name the model and bind your receiver like normal. At this point, we would usually continue to the next pages and set up our mix manually. Let's hit Exit instead and return to the home page. To open a Lua script, we'll long press the Model button to enter the System menu, or use the Sys key if you have one. This brings us to the Tools page. On the Tools page, we'll scroll down to the Quick Mixer and press Enter to open it. The main page of the Quick Mixer gives you two options, one to set up a new model, and the other to edit your model. We want to set up a new model, so we'll select that. The first page is a general warning. Go ahead and read it if it's your first time. We'll press Page to move on for now though. First, we need to tell the Quick Mixer about our robot. If we have a motor with a spinning weapon, we'll select the Motor checkbox. If you use a servo for a lifter, you'll select the second. If you have both, like for a hammer saw robot, you can select both. If you have a robot that only drives, you can just skip this. For this example, I'm going to pick both just to show all the features and then press Page to move on. After telling the robot what components we have, the next page has wiring for you. To properly use the Quick Mixer, you need to follow this wiring scheme. The basic receiver setup is that the weapon motor will go on the first channel, our drive motors will go on the second and third channels, and then the servo will go on the fourth channel if you have one. The next page is going to be the weapon motor page. If you didn't select this, it won't show up, so don't worry about it. The only option here asks us what part of the transmitter we're going to use to control the weapon. We'll hit Enter to edit it. Now, I'll give that control a wiggle, and it will automatically show up in the box. You can also scroll to find it, but this is easier. Once I have what I want, I'll hit Enter again to close it, and we can see this check mark has shown up to confirm that the Quick Mixer has the input. We'll press Page to move on. The next page is for the servo. This page wants another input, so I'll first choose something for that. I'm going to use the rudder, so I'll give that a wiggle. There's a second option that shows up now, which is the center position for the servo. This is the position that the servo will go to when the safety is on. If you want it all the way in one direction, you can scroll down to -100. And if you want it the other way, you can scroll up. If you leave it at 0, it will just stay in the middle. Now, we'll set up the safety switch for the robot. If you have a weapon, this will help prevent you from accidentally turning it on while loading and unloading from a test box or arena. This will prompt you for a switch, so we can move any one of those to select our input. Whatever position you leave it in will be the disarmed position, and to arm the robot, you'll have to move it away from that position. Next is setting up the drive. If you didn't check any of the weapon boxes, you'll skip straight here. This page has two inputs, one for forwards and backwards, and the other for left and right turning. I'll set these up on the right control stick of my transmitter, setting the forward and backward to the elevon, and the left and right to the aileron. The last page is used to save the mix to the radio model. If you've missed anything and don't have the check marks, you'll get a warning here telling you to fix it. We've got all of our boxes filled in and everything set up correctly, so we've got a box telling us to save and exit, and I'll press enter to do that. And that's it. If I move back into the real world and connect a robot to it, we'll see that it's working. I don't have a servo on this robot, but I can see that the safety properly overrides the weapon motor, and that the drive motors work correctly going forwards and backwards and turning left and right. What if it doesn't though? I've gone in now and messed up something in my robot on purpose. Now, when I try to go forward, it turns. Let's take a look at how to use the editor to update the mix that you just made to fix this issue without having to rewire the robot. Let's look at the options I've got first. I'm going to open the editor by going back to the System menu, then selecting the mixer, then the robot editor. The first two options let you individually invert motor directions. If one of your motors is soldered in the wrong way around, you can just select the reverse option here instead of rewiring it. The next option is to invert the steering of the robot. This really only happens if you accidentally swap the left and right motor positions, but sometimes things happen during a repair. If you select it, it will switch which channel the left and right motors are on. The next two options let you change the speed of the robot. The straight line speed is the first option, and the second option is how fast the robot turns. I've set this to a default value of 30 because a lot of beginners have issues with their turning being too fast. But if you find it to be too slow, you can change it here. The last option is the center position of the servo. If you didn't set up a servo in the quick mixer, you won't see it here at all. If you did, this lets you change where it moves to more precisely and set it up exactly how you want it. All of these settings save automatically as soon as you change them. To finish, you just hit the exit key. Let's diagnose the issues here as an example. When I move the stick forward, the robot spins. When I push it to the side to turn, it goes in a straight line. This is a pretty classic issue of a motor being inverted. If just my steering was inverted, I would still be able to go forward, it would just turn in the wrong direction. To determine which motor is causing the issue, I'll watch the robot carefully. When I press forwards on the stick, I can see that the left side of the robot moves forwards, and the right side goes backwards. Because the right side is going backwards, I know I have to reverse the right motor. I'll do this by entering the editing menu, then just selecting the checkbox to invert the right motor. And that's it. While I'm here, I also feel like making the robot turn a little faster. I'll select the steering speed and turn it up a bit. When I press enter, it rewrites the mix with the faster turning speeds. Now, if I exit the editor and test my robot again, you can see that it drives forward correctly and turns in the correct direction. I've been super happy testing this mixer with how easy it's made it to set up my robots, so I'm hoping you find it useful as well. If you've stuck around this long, or skipped to this part of the video, you're probably already sold and just want to know how to install it for yourself. Let's do that now. First, we'll take a look at the GitHub page. The README for this project is on the first page here, and contains most of the same information in this video. On the right-hand side are the releases, where we'll download the mixer. When we click on the GitHub releases, we'll see the most recent release of the software. Scroll down to the bottom of this and click on the quick.zip folder. Once the file has finished downloading, unzip it to any location on your computer. For this example, I've unzipped it to the desktop. Now, we'll plug our radio into the computer and select USB storage. If you have a newer radio and it isn't working, you might have two USB ports, in which case one of them is likely a charging port and the other is for communication, so try both. When you plug it in, the folders in the pop-up should look something like this, so you can be confident you're in the right place. With the file manager open to the root or main page of the radio SD card, you can now drag the scripts folder inside of the quick folder onto that page. This will copy the files onto the SD card in the right locations. To check that it's worked correctly, you can now click on the scripts folder inside of the SD card. You should now see a folder inside of it labeled Quick with 3 Lua scripts inside. You'll also find the Quick Loader inside of the Tools folder. If you see all of these files, you can go ahead and unplug the radio and restart it to refresh the SD card. Now, if you access the System menu, you should see the Quick Mixer as an option on the Tools page. With the mixer now on the radio, you can set up and edit your models as we've already shown in this video. If you have any questions or suggestions for new features, leave a comment down below, and if you're interested in supporting future projects and making robots more accessible, subscribe for more.